नमस्कार दोस्तों, मैं हूं सचिन और आपका मेरे YouTube चैनल पे बहुत बहुत स्वागत है। दोस्तों, आज हम इंग्लिश लिटरेचर की एक और एज की बात करने जा रहे हैं, जिस एज का नाम है प्री रोमांटिक्स और जिसे ट्रांजिशनल राइटर्स के नाम से भी जाना जाता है। इस एज की शुरुआत होती है 1745 में और इसका अंत होता है 1780 में। अब इस एज के कुछ हिस्टोरिकल फैक्ट्स जान लेते हैं। इस एज को हम थर्ड रेनेसा के नाम से भी जानते हैं और दिस वाज द टाइम व्हेन द फर्स्ट इंडस्ट्रियल रेवोल्यूशन स्टार्टेड। जो एक्चुअल रेवोल्यूशन थी, इंडस्ट्रियल रेवोल्यूशन थी, दैट टेक्निकली कम्स इन रोमांटिक एज, बट हाई एंड द एक्सट्रीम इंडस्ट्रियलाइजेशन कम्स इन विक्टोरियन एज। लेकिन इसके जो बीज थे वो किस एज में दिखने शुरू हो गए थे? वो दिखने शुरू हो गए थे आपके प्री रोमांटिक्स एज में। ठीक है, इंग्लैंड की हिस्ट्री की बात करें तो ये वो समय था जिस टाइम पे जो पीपल जो थी वो दे वर वेरी एफिलुएंट एंड दे वर वेरी रिच, बट अनएम्प्लॉयमेंट स्टार्टेड प्रिवेलिंग बिकॉज इस टाइम पे जो फर्स्ट रेवोल्यूशन थी वो शुरू हो गई थी। ठीक है, तो ये टाइम था जब लोग जो थे राइटिंग की ओर हुए, जब लोग जो थे राइटिंग से बोर्ड होने लग गए थे, सेटायर से, विट से, पैरिडी से, जो ग्रेट क्लासिक्स की जो पिछली एज में जो ग्रेट क्लासिक्स को कॉपी किया जा रहा था वो अभी कहीं ना कहीं लोगों को पसंद नहीं आ रहा था। एक नया ग्रुप एक नया ग्रुप ऑफ राइटर्स जो है इमर्ज हुआ, जिनके जो आइडियाज़ थे वो काफ़ी लिबरल थे और जिन्होंने नेचर को फॉलो किया एंड देन रूरल सराउंडिंग थी जो उनके बारे में लिखना शुरू किया। ये राइटर कौन से थे? ये राइटर थे डॉक्टर जॉनसन, एडवर्ड गिब्बन, ओलिवर गोल्डस्मिथ, एलन रैमसे, जेम्स थॉमसन, जॉन डायर, थॉमस ग्रे, विलियम कॉलिंस, विलियम ब्लेक एंड विलियम कूपर। ठीक है, तो इन्होंने क्या किया? दे अवॉइडेड टॉकिंग अबाउट पॉलिटिक्स को, रीज़न को बिल्कुल दरकिनार कर दिया इन्होंने। ये नेचर की बात करने लगे, नेचर की ओर रिटर्न हुए ये। ठीक है, और लिटरेचर, लव ऑफ लिटरेचर, इसकी ओर इनका ज़्यादा ध्यान दिया। इन्होंने ह्यूमन सेंटिमेंट्स के ऊपर, ह्यूमन इश्यूज़ के ऊपर, मैन टू नेचर रिलेशनशिप के ऊपर, इन सारी चीज़ों के ऊपर इन लोगों ने बात करनी शुरू करी। यही कारण है कि इन राइटर्स को ट्रांजिशनल राइटर्स, क्योंकि ये एक ट्रांजिशन कर रहे थे एक एज से दूसरी एज की ओर, और या फिर इनको प्री रोमांटिक्स राइटर के नाम से जाना जाता है। ठीक है, वन ऑफ द मोस्ट हैपनिंग एज है ये इंग्लिश लिटरेचर की, और लेटर इट विल गेट कन्वर्टेड इनटू रोमांटिक एज एंड बिकम वन ऑफ द मोस्ट लिबरल एज ऑफ राइटिंग। तो ये कुछ हिस्टोरिकल फैक्ट्स थे इस एज के बारे में। अब इस एज के कुछ इंपॉर्टेंट राइटर्स की बात कर लेते हैं। तो सबसे पहले हमारे जो सबसे मोस्ट इंपॉर्टेंट राइटर हैं इस एज के, वो हैं डॉक्टर सैमुअल जॉनसन, जिनका बर्थ होता है 1704 में और जिनकी डेथ हो जाती है 1734 में। ठीक है, तो काफ़ी जल्दी ये इनकी डेथ हो जाती है। माफ़ी चाहूँगा, इनकी डेथ जो है वो इनका बर्थ जो है वो 1709 में होता है, रादर की 1704 में। ठीक है, कार्लियल कोल्ड हिम अ मास ऑफ जेन्युइन मैनहुड। एट 25 ही मैरिड अ वुमन ओल्ड इनफ टू बी हिज मदर, अ जेन्युइन लव मैच ही कॉल्ड इट, एंड विद हर डाउरी ऑफ 800 euros दे स्टार्टेड अ प्राइवेट स्कूल टुगेदर विच वॉज अ डिसमल फेलियर. Led by the great success of the Spectator, Johnson started two magazines, that is the Rambler 1750 to 1752 and the Idler 1758 to 1760. A book, says Dr. Johnson, should help us either enjoy life or endure it. So Johnson was not educated in school. His father was a bookbinder. He would get a lot of book to his house, where Samuel Johnson managed to enter in an university without going to school. Samuel Johnson was a very practical and smart man. He married a lady 20 years elder to him just for the sake of her money. Though when he got the dowry of 800 pounds, he opened a school and just got one admission of his own nephew. When people laughed at his decision, he kept on defending, saying that this was an intellectual marriage, if not love. So, this is all about Dr. Samuel Johnson's. So, this is about the magazines in order, that is TSRI, Tatler, Spectator, Rambler, Idler. So, this would help you in NET exam or even in GATE exam. So, first of all, we have his important works, that is वैनिटी ऑफ ह्यूमन विशेस। बहुत इंपॉर्टेंट वर्क है दोस्तों ये, इसको पूरा पढ़िएगा आप। ठीक है, तो पूरा पढ़ना है अपने इसको। इसकी ओपनिंग लाइन्स हैं, लेट ऑब्जर्वेशन विद एक्सटेंसिव व्यू सर्वे मैनकाइंड फ्रॉम चाइना टू पेरू। सेकेंड इंपॉर्टेंट पोइम इज लंडन, दैट वाज पब्लिश्ड इन 1738। तो इस नॉवल की भी समरी आपने एक बार देखनी है क्योंकि ये भी इंपॉर्टेंट पोइम है। उसके बाद हमारी इंपॉर्टेंट पोइम आती है लाइफ ऑफ द पोइट सैवेज, टाइटल इज इनफ। नेक्स्ट वी हैव आयरीन, it's his last classic tragedy, title is enough. Next we have the history of Rasselas, published in 1759, originally titled The Prince of Abyssinia. The ending is written in a very loose way, and this is the reason it went out of print. When his mother died in 1759, he had no money to pay for her funeral, so he wrote it hurriedly to pay for the funeral. Next, we have the English Dictionary, published in 1755. Johnson called this dictionary Vasta Male Superbus, which means proud of its great work. ठीक है, तो ये जो डिक्शनरी थी इसमें माना जाता है कि अराउंड 800 टर्म्स थी. ठीक है, तो ये पहली डिक्शनरी भी मानी जाती है इंग्लिश लिटरेचर की, इंग्लिश की. ठीक है. नेक्स्ट वी हैव द लाइव्स ऑफ द पोइट, पब्लिश्ड इन 1779 एंड published between 1779 to 1781. Next we have Preface to Shakespeare, only title is enough. And then Compton Rickett called Samuel Johnson and Alexander Pope the literary dictators of their ages. ठीक है, तो यहाँ पे हमारा जो सैम्पल जॉनसन है वो ख़त्म होता है. नेक्स्ट जो इंपॉर्टेंट राइटर हैं इस एज के वो हैं एडवर्ड गिबन, जिनका बर्थ होता है 1737 में और जिनकी डेथ हो जाती है 1794 में. ठीक है, सो he is also known as modern historian of ancient Rome. He was greatly frustrated by his college life. He found some interest in history, which led him to read the greatest history of Roman Empire. He has written a work called The Decline and Fall of the Roman Empire, which was published in 1786. In his journal, he tells us how his vague resolutions were brought to focus. It was at Rome on the 15th of October 1764, as I sat musing amidst the ruins of Capitol while the barefooted friars were singing vespers in the temple of Jupiter, that the idea of writing the decline and fall of the city started to my mind. The history begins with the reign of Trajan in AD 1988 and builds a straight Roman road through the confused histories of the 13th century, ending with the fall of the Byzantine Empire in 1453. He has also written memoirs. In his memoirs, we have an exciting reflection of Gibbon's own personality, a man who always seeks the easiest path for himself and avoids life's difficulties and responsibilities. I sighed as a lover, but I obeyed as a son, he says, when, to save his inheritance, he gave up the woman he loved and came home to enjoy the paternal loaves and fishes. So this was a very important writer, and I actually personally feels that I am like him in certain ways. So next we have Edmund Burke, born in 1729 and died in 1797. He supported Americans against British colonization and British domination. He was also against the French Revolution. He is also known as the philosophical founder of modern conservatives. His great speeches on American taxation and on conciliation with America were delivered in 1774 and 1775, preceding the Declaration of Independence. In this period, Burke's labor seemed all in vain. He lost his cause and England her greatest colony. His greatest speeches are the Nabob of Arcot's debts and his tremendous impeachment of Warren Hastings. Hastings was acquitted and the spoliation of India went on. Next, he has written A Vindication of Natural Societies, published in 1757. It is also known as A View of Miseries and Evils Arriving to Mankind. It was praised by P.B. Shelley's father-in-law William Godwin, who called it the first literary expression of philosophical anarchism. Next, he has written The Origin of Our Ideas of the Sublime and the Beautiful. And next, he has written The Philosophical Inquiry into Sublime. It was written when he was 19 years old and also known as Only Purely Philosophical Work. Next, he has written Reflections on the French Revolution. He was against the imperialistic attitude of Warren Hastings in India and other countries. The next writer we have is William Collins, born in 1729 and died in 1759. He was a friend and disciple of James Thomson. He has written Persian or Oriental Eclogues, published 1742. It is also known as Oriental Eclogue. It deals with the Oriental myths. Edward Said Quinn's Orient and Occident. William Collins has been compared to Thomas Gray but couldn't match Gray's standard. He has written Ode to Evening, published in 1746. The writer has used three words for the evening, that is chastive, meekive and nymph-reserved. He has written some other quote also, that is Ode to Pity, Ode to Fear, Ode to Evening, Ode to Simplicity, Ode to the Passions, How Sleeps the Brave, Ode on the Death of Mr. Thompson, published in 1749, Ode on the Popular Superstitions of the Highlands, 1750. Next, we have an important writer, that is Oliver Goldsmith, born in 1729 and died in 1774. Dr. Johnson said Oliver Goldsmith wrote like an angel but spoke like a poor illiterate man. Attracted by his poverty and genius, Johnson declared him one of the first men we now have as an author. Goldsmith dies in 1774 and Johnson places a tablet with a sonorous Latin epitaph in Westminster Abbey, though Goldsmith was buried elsewhere. Let not his frailties be remembered, he was a very great man. The Citizens of the World, published in 1760 to 61, the subtitle of this book is A Tale Supposed to be Written by Himself. This book deals with a Chinese narrator, Lin Shi Altangi, who lives in London and writes letters to his friend in China. It is in epistolary form. Epistolary form means, a novel written in letter form. Next, he has written Traveller, published in 1764. It's a long poem written in rhymed couplets. Next, he has written The History of Little Goody Two Shoes, published in 1765. Next, he has written The Vicar of Wakefield, published in 1766. It is an important work. You should read the summary of this work. It's Goldsmith's only novel, which is the story of a simple English clergyman, Dr. Primrose, and his family who pass from happiness through great tribulation. Next, he has written The Good-Natured Man, published in 1768. Next, he has written The Deserted Village, published in 1770. And you should read the summary of this book, as it is an important book. It deals with the condition of brain drain. Next, he has written She Stoops to Conquer, published in 1773. Guys, this particular work is very important and you should read the whole work, or at least the detailed summary, if not the whole work, then detailed summary, chapter-wise summary of this particular book. And the subtitle of this book is Mistakes of the Night. The famous funny character in the book is Tony Lumpkin. Next, we have Thomas Gray, born in 1717 and died in 1771. He has written Ode on a Distant Prospect of Eton College, published in 1747. He talks about his college days here. He has given a famous line here, where ignorance is blessed, it is fool to be wise. Next, he has written Ode on the Death of a Favorite Cat Drowned in a Tub of Goldfishes, published in 1747. Here he has given a famous line, what female heart can gold despise, what cats averse to fish. He gives us a moral message here saying, not all that glitters gold. हर चमकती चीज़ सोना नहीं होती, ठीक है. तो वो जो कहावत है इसी पोइम से आई है. नेक्स्ट, ही हैज़ रिटन ओड टू स्प्रिंग, पब्लिश्ड इन 1748. समरी पढ़ लीजिएगा, इसकी इंपॉर्टेंट ओड है ये भी. नेक्स्ट, ही हैज़ रिटन एलेजी रिटन इन ए कंट्री चर्चयार्ड, पब्लिश्ड इन 1759. दिस इज़ वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट पोइम एंड यू शुड रीड द होल पोइम, ठीक है. पूरी पोइम पढ़िएगा, ये बहुत इंपॉर्टेंट पोइम है ये. The opening lines are, the curfew tolls the knell of parting day, the ploughman homeward plods his weary way. This means that church bells have given the message that this is evening. The ploughman who is tired finds his way, tired finds his way. This is called transferred epithet. Next, he has written Progress of Poesy, published in 1757. Next, he has written The Bard, 1757. It is also known as the first creative work of the Celtic revival. Next, he has written The Fatal Sisters and the Descent of Odin, published in 1761. The next writer we have is William Cowper, born in 1731 and died in 1800. He is famously called the first modern poet by S.T. Coleridge. Most of his poems are inspired by Mrs. Unwin, who cared for him as a son, and whatever happiness he experienced in his poor life was the result of the devotion of this good woman, who is the Mary of all his poems. So, he has written The Negro's Complaint, published in 1788. You should read the summary of this poem. And then we have Yarley Oak, only title is enough. And then he has written The Sofa. It was suggested by Lady Austen, a lively and cultured widow. He added to this poem occasionally and called his complete work The Task, published in 1785. Next, he has written John Gilpin. It was also suggested by Lady Austen. And then he has written Light Shining Out of Darkness, published 1773. And then he has written On Receipt of My Mother's Picture. It begins with a striking line, oh, that those lips had language. So this is very important. You should read the summary of this poem. And then he has written Alexander Selkirk. It begins with I am monarch of all I survey. Suggest how Selkirk's experiences as a castaway, which gave Defoe his inspiration for Robinson Crusoe, affected the poet's timid nature and imagination. And then he has written Letters, published 1803. Finally, he has written The Castaway. It's his last poem, which is a cry of despair, in which he describes himself perishing in the light of friends who are powerless to help. And then we have Robert Burns, born in 1759 and died in 1796. He was known as Bard of Ayrshire. He has been called Ploughman Poet, while John Clare has been called Peasant Poet. Carlyle said that Burns' life is a life of fragments. Fitzgreen Halleck's poem To a Rose from near Alloway Kirk, published 1822, greatly appreciates Burns and his poetry. He has written verses supposed to be written on the Scottish Highlands or poem chiefly in the Scottish dialect, published in 1786. So following are the poems in this particular collection. Some important poems from this particular collection we have is The Quarter Saturday Night, Tom O'Shanter, To a Louse, To a Mouse, To a Mountain Daisy, Man Was Made to Mourn, The Twa Dogs, Address to the Deal, Halloween, My Love is Like Red Red Rose, A Fond Kiss, Winter, Ye Wanks and Breeze O Bonnie Doon, I Love My Jean, To Marry in Heaven, Epistle to a Young Friend, A Man's a Man, For a That, The Vision, Address to the Uncoguid, The Ward Awards Epitaph. The next writer we have is William Blake, born in 1757 and died in 1827. He was nominated as the 30th Great Britain in the 100 Great Britain's list. He was against all types of religion. William Rossetti praised him by calling him glorious luminary. He is also famous for his commentary on Paradise Lost, where he said Milton was a devil's party. He also commented on Francis Bacon's essays, saying Bacon's essays are good advice to Satan's kingdom. He invented a new printing style which is known as engraved printing. As a young boy, Blake participated in Gordon Riots, which attacked the Newgate prison and set the inmates free in June 1780. After this, the first police force was created. He was also a revolutionary. Swinburne called him the only poet of supreme and simple poetic genius of the 18th century. He has written works like The Poetical Sketches, published 1783. Next, he has written Songs of Innocence, published 1789. It has 19 poems like The Tiger, Chimney Sweepers, The Lamb, The Evening Star, Memory, Night, Love, To the Muses, Spring, Summer, The Cloud and the Pebble, etc. So Songs of Innocence, it is very important. You should read all the summary, at least the synopsis of all the summaries. Okay? And you should read the whole summary, like The Tiger, Chimney Sweepers, The Lamb. Okay? These three poems are very important. Next, he has written Songs of Experiences, published in 1795. Okay, this particular collection is also very important. You should read the synopsis of all the poems. Okay, it has 26 poems. There are many poems which are repeated here in the second version. Okay, next he has written An Island in the Moon, published 1784. He has also written The French Revolution, 1791, The Marriage of Heaven and Hell, only title is enough, The Vision of the Daughters of Albion, Jerusalem and Milton, published 1804. Next he has written Urizen, and then he has written Gates of Paradise, and finally he has written America. Only titles are enough of all these works. And then we have Thomas Chatterton, who was born in 1752 and died in 1770. He committed suicide at the age of 17. This young boy wrote Bristow Tragedy and Rowley poems. In Rowley poems, a character Thomas Rowley is an imaginary monk. When these books were published, he was severely criticized for plagiarism, and he requested Horace Walpole to be his patron, but Walpole insulted him. This could be the reason that he took arsenic and committed suicide. John Keats has called Chatterton a purest poet and dedicated his Endymion to him, and Wordsworth called him a marvelous poet. Shelley dedicated his Adonais to him. Okay? Next the next writer we have is George Crabbe, born 1754 and died in 1832. He has been introduced to the literary world by Edmund Burke, and he has written works like Library, The Village, 1783, The Parish Register, 1807, The Woro, 1810, Tales in Verse, 1812, Tales of the Whole, 1819. Only titles are enough, no need to go through any of the works. And then we have James Macpherson. So he was born in 1736 and died in 1796. He has written fragments of Asian poetry collected in the Highlands, published 1780. He alleged that his work was a translation of Gaelic manuscripts. Next, he has written Fingal, published 1762. It means white stranger. Samuel Johnson also criticized this. Swinburne called it that blank and lamentable counterfeit of poetry, which the author professed to have translated from the Gaelic of the poet Ossian. Next, he has written Timora, published 1763. Dr. Johnson criticized this epic poem. And then we have Thomas Parsi, born in 1729 and died in 1811. He has written Relics of Ancient English Poetry, published 1765. He collected all the unclaimed Anglo-Saxon poetries and published them together. It includes Tale of Robin Hood, Wandering Jew, Cheviches, Nut Brown Mate, Children of the Wood, Battle of Otterburn, etc. Next, he has written Northern Antiquities, published 1770, translated from the French of Mallet's History of Denmark. Next writer we have is James Thomson, born 1700 and died 1748. He has been called the father of pre-romantics. He was active in his work The Seasons, written in 1726 and completed by 1730. Here we have 4 books dealing with 4 seasons. They are chronologically ordered as winter, summer, spring and autumn. It's written in blank verse. Next, he has written Rule Britannia, published 1740. It is written in heroic couplet. It is a patriotic song primarily used by the Royal Navy of Britain. Here we have a line, Rule Britannia, rule the wave, and England will never be a slave. And next, he has written The Castle of Indolence, published 1748. It's written in Spenserian stanza. Now we will talk in brief about pre-romantics or transitional dramatist. First, we have Colley Cibber. He has written works like Love Makes a Man. And next, he has written Love's Last Shift or The Fool in Passion, also known as Virtue Rewarded. And finally, he has written Xerxes, published in 1799. And then we have John Gay, who has written The Beggar's Opera. Next writer we have is Susanna Centlivre. She has written 16 successful plays. And she has also written The Wonder, A Woman Keeps a Secret, published 1714. And then she has written A Bold Stroke for a Wife. Next we have Richard Sheridan. He has written The Duena. It's a 3-act comic opera with Don Jerome. Lord Byron called it the best opera written. Next, he has written A Trip to Scarborough, published 1717. Tom Fashion is the protagonist in this work. Next, he has written The Rivals, published 1775. It is an important work and you should go through the summary of this work. It's known for a character named Mrs. Malaprop. Malaprop is also very important character and you should read the character sketch of Mrs. Malaprop also. So, she habitually mispronounces words. In his famous work, Much Ado About Nothing, William Shakespeare has already developed a character, Dosberry, who mispronounces words. Next, he has written The School for Scandal. It is an important work and you should read the summary of this work. So, important characters are Lady Sneerwell, Benjamin Backwhite, Lady Teazle, and Joseph Surface. The epilogue of this book is written by George Coleman the Elder. Lady Teazle speaks it as a parody of Othello. The final writer of this particular age we have is Hannah More. She has written Search After Happiness, a pastoral drama, and then The Fatal Falsehood. So दोस्तों फाइनली इस एज का खात्मा जो है हमारे इस पर्टिकुलर राइटर के साथ ख़त्म होता है. आई होप कि आपको ये एज अच्छी लगी होगी और समझ भी आ गई होगी और ये नेट के लिए और गेट के लिए और फिर और भी पीजी यूजी एग्ज़ाम्स के लिए काफ़ी इंपॉर्टेंट है. अगर कोई क्वेश्चन है तो आप कमेंट सेक्शन में पूछ सकते हैं. वीडियो अच्छी लगी है तो लाइक शेयर और कमेंट कर दीजिएगा. नई वीडियो लेके जल्दी आपके सामने हाजिर होंगे. तब तक के लिए थैंक यू वेरी मच एंड हैव अ ग्रेट डे.